Sometimes people don't actually want silence. They just run out of energy before they can escape it anymore. That's why some people keep the TV running even when they're not watching it. Why they play podcasts while cleaning. Why they sleep with YouTube videos in the background. Why music follows them from room to room all day long. Not because they're entertained. Because complete silence can start feeling emotionally uncomfortable. And if you've ever noticed that quiet rooms somehow make your thoughts louder, you probably already know this feeling. There are people who can sit in silence and feel calm. And then there are people whose nervous systems immediately start searching for noise the second life becomes too still. Not dramatic noise, just enough sound to avoid being fully alone with themselves. A fan, rain sounds, a random show playing in another room. Anything soft enough to distract the mind without demanding attention. Because for some people, silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels exposing. Like the moment external noise disappears, internal noise gets harder to escape. And the strange part is that many people don't even realize they're doing this. It becomes automatic. You wake up and immediately play something. You eat with background videos. You scroll while another video plays at the same time. You fall asleep listening to strangers talk. Not because you're deeply interested, but because silence leaves too much room for thoughts your body never learned how to sit with safely. That's the part people misunderstand about coping habits. They think comfort always looks comforting, but sometimes coping looks like constant stimulation, constant movement, constant noise, not because your brain is addicted to entertainment, because your nervous system became uncomfortable with emotional stillness. For some people, silence was never emotionally neutral. Silence was when tension became noticeable, when emotions got louder, when loneliness became harder to ignore, when overthinking stopped being buried underneath activity. So the body adapts. It learns to keep something playing in the background at all times, not to feel happy, just to avoid feeling fully exposed internally. And over time, noise starts feeling safer than quiet. That's why some people feel uneasy the second a video ends, why they instantly reach for another sound source, why peaceful moments can feel strangely heavy instead of relaxing. Because when the world becomes quiet, your nervous system finally hears everything it spent all day trying to outrun. Sometimes it's anxiety. Sometimes it's emotional exhaustion. Sometimes it's memories. Sometimes it's just the uncomfortable feeling of existing without distraction for a few minutes. And if someone spent years surviving emotionally by staying mentally occupied, silence can start feeling unfamiliar, in the same way darkness feels unfamiliar after too much light. Not dangerous exactly, just emotionally unguarded. That's why some people can't just sit in a quiet room without immediately reaching for stimulation. Not because they're weak, not because they lack discipline, but because stillness gives emotions space to surface, and their body may still associate that with vulnerability. The hardest part is that this kind of exhaustion is almost invisible. People see someone listening to music constantly and think it's preference. They see someone sleeping with videos on and think it's habit. But sometimes those habits are emotional buffering systems, small survival strategies that quietly help a person avoid feeling alone with their own mind. And eventually, the body forgets how to experience silence without preparing for discomfort. So even peaceful environments start feeling emotionally incomplete without noise filling the space. That creates a very strange relationship with quiet. Part of you craves peace. Another part feels safer when something is always playing, always moving, always distracting you just enough. And maybe that's why silence feels heavier than it should. Not because there's something wrong with you, but because your nervous system adapted to survive emotional overwhelm by never letting your inner world become completely quiet. So if you always need background noise, if silence makes your thoughts suddenly become louder, if quiet rooms feel emotionally uncomfortable for reasons you can't fully explain, maybe your body isn't addicted to noise. Maybe it's just trying to protect you from what silence used to bring with it. Do you actually enjoy background noise? Or do you just feel emotionally safer when your thoughts aren't the loudest thing in the room? And if this felt painfully familiar, stay with EmptyButAware. This is where quiet survival habits finally start making sense.